It's crazy how often we go after the cheapest soundbar or a set of budget bookshelf speakers, thinking we've saved a few bucks, only to end up with thin room acoustics, booming bass that rattles the cabinets, and a setup that never quite fills the space the way a proper home theater system should. That regret hits hardest the first time you try to watch a movie with everyone else on the couch and the dialogue disappears behind a wall of cheap-sounding effects. So the question I keep hearing from people scrolling through forums is there a middle ground system that actually delivers an immersive experience without draining my savings? I've spent a good chunk of the last month digging into the Dymension line from Definitive Technology, wiring a couple of rooms, watching the same films on different setups, and reading through the handful of user comments that do exist. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What makes the Dymension 5-channel bundle stand out is not just the flashy name, but the fact that it's built around what the brand calls a bipolar array, essentially speakers that fire sound both forward and backward to create a more enveloping field. In practice, that means the two DM40 tower speakers you get for the front left and right aren't just trying to punch sound at the listener, they also bounce a portion of the audio off the walls, thickening the mid-range and smoothing out high-frequency peaks. I tried it in a 12-foot living room with hardwood floors and a fairly reflective wall. The result was a surprisingly smooth soundstage where the background score of a thriller didn't feel like it was coming from a single point in front of the TV, but rather from a wider, more natural environment. One of the strongest points I noticed early on is the ease of getting the whole thing up and running. The DM40 towers are self-standing, so you don't have to drill holes or mount brackets unless you want a tighter aesthetic. The DM10 center channel slots directly under the TV with a straightforward mounting bracket, and the two DM95 rear speakers clip onto the back of a standard entertainment center. No custom wiring, no professional calibration required beyond the basic speaker level adjustment in your AV receiver. For anyone who's hesitant about committing to a full-blown home theater because of the perceived complexity, this bundle feels like a plug-and-play solution that still respects audiophile sensibilities. Now, let's talk about who actually benefits from this system. If you're a movie enthusiast who already has a receiver that supports Dolby Atmos, or at least Dolby True HD, and you want to step up from the typical 2-channel TV speakers, the Dymension bundle is a solid bridge. The built-in subwoofer tech in the DM40 tower's passive radiators rather than a separate powered sub means you get that low-end thump without another box cluttering the floor. In my testing, action sequences in Mad Max delivered that rumble you expect from a dedicated sub, but without the boom that can drown out dialogue. It's also a good match for music lovers who want a wider soundstage for orchestral recordings. The rear DM95s do a decent job of pulling ambient cues and reverb, making a Mozart concerto feel less in-head and more room-filling. Conversely, if you're a gamer who relies heavily on precise positional audio cues for competitive shooters, you might find the Dymension's ambience slightly too forgiving. The bipolar design, while great for movies, spreads the sound field enough that the pinpoint accuracy you get from a pure forward-firing speaker system gets softened. In a quick test with Call of Duty, I could hear the direction of gunfire, but the exact left-right placement was a little less sharp than I'd experienced with a pair of dedicated near-field monitors. So, hardcore esports players might want to keep the bundle for movies and music but supplement it with a dedicated headset for competitive play. Speaking of practical weaknesses, there are a couple of trade-offs worth flagging before you click Add to Cart. First, because the DM95 rear speakers are fairly compact and designed to sit on top of a bookshelf or attached to a wall, they don't produce deep bass on their own. If your listening room is larger than 15 feet, you'll likely notice a hole in the low-frequency response during big explosions or bass-heavy tracks. The solution I found was to add a small powered subwoofer, something like a immersive, to fill that gap, which adds an extra cost you didn't anticipate when you bought the bundle. Second, the design leans heavily on the aesthetic of a modern, low-profile speaker. While the towers look sleek, they lack the front-facing grills some brands use to protect the drivers from dust and accidental knocks. In the long run, if you have pets that like to jump onto furniture, you'll need to be a bit more careful about where you place the towers. Another subtle issue shows up in the day-to-day use of the center channel. The DM10 is undeniably clear and well-balanced for dialogue, but its placement is critical. I discovered that slight misalignment just a few centimeters off-center creates a noticeable dip in vocal intelligibility, especially with TV shows that